This meeting to order. I will start with roll call. We are a small but mighty group today. Bren?
Here.
Jane?
Here.
Mary?
Here.
Jeannie?
Here.
And our student representatives, Dylan?
Here.
Natalie? Thank you very much. Notice of meeting.
The meeting was properly noticed.
Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Second.
All in favor of adopting the agenda, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, would you please stand with me and do the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Tonight, we are starting with saluting and recognizing Josie Wiggins, who has earned the honor of being an Eagle Scout.
Come on down, Josie.
All right, do you want to tell us a little bit about your journey?
Sure, yeah. So I joined Scouts BSA in February 2019, which was the first opportunity that girls had to join the Scouts BSA program. And since then, I've just kind of been working on earning all of my ranks, getting all my merit badges, and then eventually completing a service project, actually for Pewaukee High School, and getting my Eagle Scout award. So, yeah.
Would you mind sharing a little bit about your project, what you did?
Yeah, of course. My project was building 2 bookcases for the journalism classroom, so they are actually just down the hallway.
Nice. Does anyone have any other questions for Josie?
Josie, can you talk to us a little bit about so being an Eagle Scout takes a lot of endurance, right? Because you really got to stick with it over time. So maybe share with us a little bit about what that challenge was like and how you think maybe that's going to serve you as you move on in life.
Right. I think one big challenge for me was having to lead others as I was learning myself. I, as a 17-year-old, was not a master carpenter, so I had to kind of learn the basics of woodworking while simultaneously teaching other people what I had just learned, and I think that is a good skill to kind of serve me in my future, kind of being able to move quickly and teach not only myself but lead others. So.
I don't feel bad because I, as a 53-year-old, am not a good carpenter at all. So I'm sure I couldn't have made bookshelves as nice as those that you put together. So thank you. Anybody else?
Our friend Larry isn't here. Larry Dukes always has very inquisitive and great questions, so I apologize for that. But Josie, we really congratulate you on your journey and on your success. We have a little certificate
Congratulations, Josie.
All right. Moving on to the spotlight on learning with Asa. Anthony?
Come on down, Mr. Pizza.
All right, thank you. So for our spotlight tonight, we have Ms. Grippink, our art teacher, and we have 4 students from our advanced art class. So Ms. Grippink is going to give an overview of the class, and then we all are going to take a little walk just over into ASA. We have some tables set up, and the students have some artwork that they have either finished or are in process of working on. So public, parents, you guys are all welcome to come as well. So I'm going to hand it over to Ms. Grippink.
Hello,
Candace.
good evening. So I am here to talk to you a little bit about one of the classes that we offer at Asa Clark Middle School. It's called Advanced Art. And this is a year-long course that our 8th graders are able to take. And what is really special about this class is it gives these kids an opportunity to accelerate their art career in high school. And they get a chance to create a portfolio of work and present that to the high schoolers, high school art teachers, and the community for a chance to kind of demonstrate their skills and possibly skip out of some of the intro classes at the high school. So how the class works is first semester they are introduced to their foundational skills, kind of reviewing that, making sure that they have a good understanding of how to plan a project, how to follow it through execution, how to get feedback from their peers and from others, and make revisions and kind of be able to then evaluate their work and their progress along the way. With this first semester, they got to explore 3 different avenues, 2-dimensional art, 3-dimensional art, and digital art. And then what they're working on now, second semester, is they could pick one of those pathways to pursue. They could actually even possibly pick two or all three of them to be able to accelerate in their high school years at some of the high school level art classes. So with me, I have 4 students. There's about a little less than 40, actually, students in advanced art this year, so it's really exciting. But the 4 that are with us are Jackson, Avery, Maddie, and Isabella. They're excited to show you some of the stuff they did first semester and some of the work that they're starting and working on for their portfolios for second semester. So they will have some stuff that is in progress, like Mr. Pizzo said. But they are developing their theme and working on kind of a collection or a body of work to showcase. So they're excited to share that with you.
Can I ask, how long has advanced art been in ASA, the class? Has it been a long time or relatively new?
That's a good question. I've been here 12 years, and when I went through my first curriculum renewal is when advanced art got introduced. So
Yeah, about 10 years.
I would say it's probably, getting close to that. So you'll see me again actually pretty soon because we're going to be having curriculum renewal again and having a couple of adjustments to continue to improve the course and the opportunities that we offer students.
Yeah, that definitely sounds right, because that was when I was in Danielle's role, I remember
Is
that coming forward.
40, is it been growing and 40 is a really high number, or have you been about 40?
This is definitely the highest that it's been at. Usually it's around 20 to 30, so it really kind of just depends on how the elective classes shake out, but really strong group this year.
Nice. All right. Are we ready to move?
All right, it's time for a field trip.
For our artists,
Anything you didn't get a chance to say?
Can one of you was sharing your process where they conference with you on ideas. Can you just talk briefly about whether it be students or Candace, if you want to talk about the process students go through as they're generating ideas for their artwork?
So basically, we have a beginning conference and then a post-conference. And the beginning conference basically consists of us choosing the elements, themes, and like things that we want to try to shoot for by the end of the final project. And the post-conference is making sure we hit all of those marks. And usually we can kind of decide our own grade as long as we end up completing those like themes and elements that we decided we wanted in the beginning. So like whether we had like a specific color scheme in mind or we wanted to focus on like line work, value, or something of that sort.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, Candace, I'm going to do a little shout out for you. I hope you don't mind. So I was asking Candace some questions about the success rate of kids that are able to pass out of Intro to Art. And she mentioned that sometimes students at ASA don't have the ability to take advanced art because of their schedule. And she works with them individually and helps them put together a portfolio to then present to the high school to see if they can pass out of Intro to Art. And I just value that dedication and appreciate it so much. So I wanted to let you know and let everybody else know. That's great. We really do. All right.
Great job, everybody. Thanks. Have a good evening.
Thanks, Anthony. All right. Moving on to our student board representative report.
Yeah. All right. So for March, we wanted to start going to Horizon. We wanted to shout out Trashtastic Club, which was a completely student-led club at Horizon, where some Horizon Elementary students started their own club that was just centered on picking up trash around the district mostly, and just finding any way they can to help the Pewaukee community. The most recent project that they focused on was a fundraiser where they would raise money to donate necessities for HAWS, Humane Animal Welfare Society. So this was anything from food to toys to treats or so much more. And just a really good cause and really nice to see that students this young are thinking this deeply about their community.
Also wanted to touch on some PHS and PLE connections recently. First one up being our sensory exploration with the PHS child development class and another 4K class. They built sensory kits at the high school consisting of like they made Play-Doh, I believe. They made other activities to really focus on that SEL focus, and a great opportunity for both very wide range of ages to get together and do something great. And then another touch on, which is the picture that's shown, the Psychology 102 class and paired with a first grade class to create nonfiction books. So basically the high schoolers wrote these, or they met with a buddy and they wrote, or they were kind of conference, talked about what kind of topics they liked in regards to nonfiction. The high schoolers wrote the books and then the elementary students drew the pictures. This is actually an image that my sister sent to me. She's in the Psych 102 class. This is kind of how I got the information. Yeah, she had a great time with her buddy. Really fun and a great way to connect back to development as well. That's what they were focusing on in psychology.
And then we have our athletics and activities. So obviously we wanted to shout out girls basketball for being conference champions, regional champions, sectional champions, and now state champions for the first time in school history. Just a phenomenal accomplishment for them and really impressive. And I love that it was against Notre Dame, who's beaten them the last 2 times. They didn't get the 4-peat. Boys basketball is headed to state again, maybe for their 4-peat. We have, I believe, West Salem in the semifinal on Friday at 3:30. Hoping we can get out there for that and have a huge crowd because we're going to need to be loud. And then we also have PHS student artists going to state. Oh my gosh, I don't remember this acronym, but the WAEAYAM Youth Art Month, I remember that part. Recipients have work going to a state exhibition. I believe it's 6 different artists at the high school who all have work that is going to be displayed at a state exhibition in Madison. We also wanted to shout out Hope Squad's Hopegrams, the Mean Girls musical, which was phenomenal, and the spring sports season, which is about to start. We have track beginning right around this time. Tennis practices are starting later this month, and our cheer and wrestling teams also have state appearances, so a big shout out to them.
Furthering those salutes and recognitions, another big shout out. Really fun to go to state this weekend and watch the girls perform. They did an amazing job, exciting game, put a 110% effort in, and it really showed. And so a huge shout out to them and all of our other state athletes and students. Again, Mean Girls cast, crew, teachers, supporters, etc. It was a really great production. I was able to go see it. Amazing, like the talent was off the charts. I was impressed. Again, state champion girls basketball. Then I just wanted to shout out all of our contributors to the reality store. I know some of you are going to that tomorrow. I heard a lot about it. I'm not a senior, obviously, but Mrs. Simino was talking to me today about they're getting like a ton of just community sources coming in to do that. Dylan can probably talk about it more after he experiences it tomorrow.
Yep.
And
tomorrow.
then lastly, just wanted to shout out our PHS counselors. This is just a shout out to them, doing all the work for the ACT, college prep, future ready conferences. They do a ton behind the scenes. So I just wanted to give them a shout out as well. And then we couldn't forget about Dylan and Kellen Klein, who made it for National Merit finalists. So big shout out to them.
Yay!
Just wanted to throw that in there. And then that's all we have for you tonight.
I also did just want to include something we didn't include on here. Shout out to Coach Reuter and Coach Getch
Oh, yeah.
for doing a wonderful job with this team. What they've done in the last, not only this year, but the last couple of years has really been amazing.
And Coach Newcomer.
Yes.
and like Mrs. Sandvik, Mr. Barron's doing all that work.
Everyone
Coordinating things
this,
is
yeah.
insane. Like the amount of emails they have to send out to remind us and just the community and like all the social media is great. So just big shout out to everyone for that.
Dylan gets to do reality store, and you get to take the ACT.
I do get to
Oh,
take the ACT.
We'll be sure to get you out of here by 9, Natalie.
Thank you.
All right, does anybody have any questions or comments for Dylan or Natalie? All right, thank you. You guys did a great job.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to salutes and recognitions.
I have a couple just to add on to what our student reps did. We also have academic decathlons competing at state this week. Robotics has a competition this week. Model UN has a competition this week as well. And our FBLA folks will be heading to state before we meet again as a board. So just good luck to all of them in their upcoming. So we just have kids aplenty doing some amazing things around the school this time of year.
All right, so as you all know, I'm very tied to that girls' basketball program. And I just wanted to point out, and hopefully I'll be able to do a very similar shout out to David Burkemper. But in the time that Jim Reuter has been here, it's been 6 years. They've had 4 state appearances, 2 silver balls, and 1 gold ball. And if many of you know, his dad was a coach. And I had to point out to him when he took home his 2nd silver ball that his dad only had 1 silver ball. So super proud of Jim and everything that he's built and done with that program, so.
This was a great season. I have a couple additional salutes. I want to see any other board members have salutes. So I'd like to recognize actually the Village Police Department. They held their an award ceremony here the other night, which I thought was really great. I was happy to attend, and I was just first time I'd ever experienced that, so got to see officers getting their badges and getting promoted, and it was great to see them get recognition because usually our officers are here and we're gonna get a report from 2 of them tonight with Carrie and Julie, but to get to see them get recognized professionally was really, I thought, very well done. I thought it was a very positive event. And in particular, and Julie, you're going to have to maybe help me on this, I want to echo a recognition that Julie Budenhagen received, and I believe you said Brian was involved as well, and there was another officer on the national. There was a very serious incident with some trafficking and pornography that was happening, and the role that Julie and other officers played to investigate and really crack this national ring that had multiple arrests in Texas, as well as right here in Pewaukee, where kids were being abused. That was, to me, that was the highlight of all the recognitions that I saw. I did not know much about that happening, but it was a great example of how our officers make our community and our kids safer. So I just wanted to offer that recognition as well.
All right, thank you. Yeah, news to all of us, I'm assuming. All right. Moving on to comments from citizens. Julie, do we have any cards? All right. Moving on to the consent agenda. We have the minutes from our February 26th policy meeting and board meeting, and then the March 4th learning session. We had some correspondence in our packet, and we had one gift over our threshold of $1,000 received from Dave and Maureen Schwartz of Innovative Constructions. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Thank you. Is there any discussion or comments? All right, all in favor of accepting the consent agenda as presented, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Abstain.
All right. Moving on to the Business Affairs Committee.
Point of order.
Oh, what?
The district report is on the agenda in board docs, but it's not on the agenda.
The district
extended one.
administrator's
This-
report?
Yeah, right. the
Yeah, it's
district-
not part of the public meeting agenda. That's just executive content for board members.
Right, but it's listed on the agenda.
It's
On
not
the left
listed
side.
It's not listed on the public agenda. That's
I-
just board
I get that,
content.
I get
Yeah.
that.
So it's
But-
not in the meeting agenda.
Well, what is that thing on the left side if not a meeting agenda?
It's our meeting agenda that we get to see, but if the
Right,
general
right, right,
public
right.
goes into it,
So I had
it's
a
not
couple
on there.
questions on the district administrator's report. And it was kind of before the citizen comments in order. So that was my question.
I would
When would we be having
suggest
questions for
and
that?
ask that you ask Mike those questions before our meeting, and if it's something that needs to be discussed in the meeting, we can do that.
I'm aware of that. I would like to ask them in the meeting.
What's your question, Mary?
They're not hard. There's an item in there discussing the Kirkland visit. Could you just give some light on that? Why Kirkland, and are there others?
Kirkland Crossings.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, we did a referendum presentation. We offered and we were then invited to present to the residents. So we did a presentation and took questions from the residents regarding the referendum on April 2nd.
Do you do that to, how is it that Kirkland is the only one?
That's just, we've done that historically. We did it in 2018. It was
I saw that.
very well received. It's, we look for opportunities to find different ways to connect to different parts of our community on that to make sure that the information gets out, so.
Are
that's-
you putting something out? How would anybody know you?
We called them. I had Julie call them and ask them if they would like a presentation, and they said yes.
And only Kirkland?
Kirkland was the only one that I called. Is there
Okay.
other places? If there's other places you would like me to contact, I'd be happy to.
No, I just didn't know how that singular entity came to receive your attention. Logistics, April 22nd is the time that the board membership turns over. And this is a guess, so you can just confirm this for me. I actually don't know how this is going to work. We're doing the oath of office on the 15th, and they're taking office 2 weeks later
Correct.
because there's no meeting on the 22nd.
they're taking, the first meeting is the existing board. The oath of office is taking place as a component of that meeting with the new members taking seat at the subsequent meeting.
Right, we didn't do that last year, so my guess is that that's why we're doing it, because there's no meeting at the date that they actually take
Correct.
their
Yeah, because
authority
you
actually
just
takes
need to get that
effect.
oath done in advance of that date.
Okay. So on the 15th, they're not seated?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Last one is the camp that was canceled for COVID. Are you folks going to be coming to us with something, or?
I was just giving you information to make you aware of it, if board, and my communication to the work camp you're talking about for 2025.
Correct.
If board members had a concern, I'd be happy to talk to you about your concerns, but
The
that
last,
was informational.
well, the last sentence on that says, I would like to get this approved. And so
No,
I didn't know what that referred to.
The gentleman who's representing the work camp would like approval from us formally.
Your approval.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just wanted to make you aware and see if board members had any questions before I formally approved it.
Perfect. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mary.
All right, Jane, Business Affairs?
Okay, Business Affairs met tonight, and we received reports from the Health and Nursing Services. They outlined a lot of what they do in the district, and it's just amazing, and I really appreciate all the work that the nursing services does for our district. Human Resources, Colin was there to give us a brief presentation on the hiring summary. And then John gave us a report on the budget development status. Currently, revenues are at 48.9% and expenses are at 56.7%. So from there, I'll take any questions or a motion.
Move to approve. Second.
I have a question about the nursing report. Same thing with the food report. Why aren't those at the board meeting level?
Those reports are given directly to the Business Affairs Committee, where the Business Affairs looks at all of the auxiliary services, all the support services in the district that are non-instructional, also with the budget development. All of the areas, so buildings and grounds comes in December and presents the long-range capital projects plan. We talked about that in advance at the meeting. Buildings and grounds is one function, food services is another function, transportation is another function, nursing services is another one of those support functions. We handle those traditionally through the Business Affairs Committee reports, rather than having it as a report to the full board, because it falls under that business administration category for the district.
Right, but you mentioned, you mentioned the grounds report. So we get a few of them here, but we don't get all of them here. And I was wondering, how are you choosing which ones we get here and which ones go to the business committee meeting? 'Cause the grounds comes here.
The buildings and grounds is the one report that goes directly to the board, because that's a precursor to the development of the budget. It feeds the capital improvement budget for the year, so we want to give greater depth in that to the full board, whereas these other auxiliary services are supporting the program, and we give that through the committee.
And the report is accessible to the entire board
Right.
through the board docs.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to accept the Business Affairs Committee report. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Abstain.
All right. Moving on to our school resource officer update.
Come on down, Julie and Carrie. Yeah, it's gonna rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get started. So I'm Officer Chorus. I have been up here at the Pewaukee School District since last year, January of 2023. So I'm going on my second year here. I'm still covering PLE and Asa Clark Middle School.
Julie Budenhagen. I think this is my 5th year. It's gone so fast. But I typically, my office is at the high school, so I am working with high school and our Horizon students. Obviously, we assist each other as need be, but we kind of divvied it up for the workload.
Yeah. So some of the roles that we have, we're interacting with students and staff. My eyesight's really horrible, so I'm gonna look over here.
That's fine.
Building positive connections between our students and our staff. Going around between buildings, classrooms, saying what's going on in your class, anything we can help you with. We are still continuing life skills, which is similar to a DARE program. We are not doing DARE anymore. Officer Budenhagen is doing life skills over at Horizon for 5th grade. We are seeing a continued rise in the use of vaping devices on school grounds. And we came up with the idea to go to our village attorney to update our ordinance to make the charges a little bit more severe when it's being used on school grounds. We are increasing in safety assessments for students that are struggling with mental health and getting them resources that can help them with whatever it is that they're battling. And then we implemented no parking on Tower and Lenore Court, whereas before they could park there, but now that was kind of a blind spot for us, and we decided let's just not have any cars back there at all.
Okay, so our role, it seems like it's always evolving. We wear many different hats up here, but really, it's a really positive interaction for us, which is different sometimes than being out on the road as a police officer. So we're continuing to build relationships. We're a listening resource. There's times when students will just come in because they have a question or just need somebody to talk to. We help mediate situations. We'll do home visits to verify residency sometimes. We'll also do home visits if we have a student that is just struggling to get to school. We're dealing with students that have mental health and anxiety, and there's times when they really struggle to get here. So we'll go with the school social worker, Mrs. Davison, or possibly a school psych from our buildings and do that visit together just to support that student and try to get them into the school, at least for that day, and get them kind of back in and the support that they need. We're trying to reinforce some positive behaviors with students, so we're not always reacting to the negative behaviors that are happening. Again, as Carrie said, we're connecting youth with needed services. That's something that we do with the help of the counselors, school social workers, school psychologists. We work very closely with John Stangler, our safety coordinator. If there's ever a question about one of our practices that we use, or if we feel we need to implement something new, we definitely work as a team. We work as a crisis incident manager if something is happening either during the school day or after school. We are continuing to use Raptor. It's an app that we use for any critical incident as well as reunification. So it's something that we're continually learning about and trying to make ourselves better and more efficient in it. We like to be guest speakers in classrooms. Sometimes that's just popping in and letting kids ask us anything that they want to. Other times it's us kind of talking about drug or alcohol use or sexting and some of our internet crimes against children, categories like bullying. And then we are a member of the safety committee team, so we attend those meetings and we work again with the whole committee to keep the school safe.
Some special events and activities that we get involved in around the school, homecoming, graduation, football games, any police escorts. So for the girls basketball team, we definitely gave them a proud ride back to school. Dances, career day, the reality store coming up will be there, handing out whether they get a ticket and they got to figure out how to budget for it, or maybe they gave a Crime Stoppers tip and they get $50 back in their pocket. We didn't do anything too over the top, so hopefully they have some fun with that. We attend board meetings, we do canine searches, and our after-school program, and then we participate in fire drills, active threat drills, lockdowns to prepare students and staff.
So again, we're trying to take every opportunity that we can to build those positive relationships. It's really great networking with staff. I'll admit that when I first came up here, it's a lot different than working with fellow officers. It was a really unique opportunity, and it's really great to meet new people and be able to ask, how are your kids doing? What did you do this weekend? So it's really nice to network with staff. Again, guest speaking in classrooms. Internet safety is always going to be continuing as technology changes. We're going to be able to build relationships with students, and also we partnership with the FBI when we give those talks. One-on-one meetings with students, and then in spring of 2023, we implemented that after-school program, which we need to tweak a little bit. We're not event planners, and I think it was kind of big for what we were thinking it was going to be, but we got our goal, which was building the relationships with kids outside of school where we can have more unstructured time. We just need to plan that a little bit better. But we've been working with Adriana Plack, and she's giving us some ideas, so we're working on it.
Our priorities while we're up here, number one is to maintain a safe and secure environment and campus for all students, staff, and visitors. We're constantly walking the halls, looking at cameras, driving to parking lots. Any doors are propped open, we're gonna close them. We wanna definitely educate ourselves on the increase in violence happening in our country so we can be prepared for that at all times.
And just to touch on that, like one thing that we discuss with John Stangler is when we get a report for a Uvalde or Stoneman Douglas shootings, what went right and what went wrong. We're always learning, and I hate to say we're learning from other people's mistakes, but I think it makes us stronger as officers and keeping the school safe. So we're really big on looking at those critical incident reports.
Yeah, as tragic as it is, it's only gonna help us to be better in the event that it would happen here. We're responding and being a part of a support team for students that have mental health. If they're in a mental health state or a crisis, we're still working on combating the use of vaping in our schools. They can be THC or tobacco. We'll continue educating students and parents on extortion, cyberbullying, or internet crimes against children, and why are they being targeted, and how we can help prevent that in the future. And then we continue to network with our local SROs, and we have a group email. We say, what's going on in your school? Have you found this before? What are you doing with these parking issues or these truancy citations? So we really bounce ideas off of each other so we can all learn and grow together.
Okay, some of our goals, continue to educate students and parents on internet safety. I know it seems very redundant, but this is a huge problem, not just during the school day, obviously, but outside of school. And we know that the issues that stem from online and technology they stay with that child for a long time. You can't get rid of pictures that are online. You post something online, somebody else screenshots it and posts it, and now it's out there forever. So it's something that we really want to ensure that everybody understands how important it is to make good choices when you're posting something online. Again, building positive relationships with students. We know that can have a lasting effect when they're older. Strive to provide an environment where students and staff feel safe and conducive to learning. And also, we always have an open door. So anybody that has any questions or safety concerns, by all means, we're hoping that they will come and talk to us. We attend a lot of training. We were just at the Wisconsin School Safety Conference last week. We attend the SRO conference in the summertime. And it's huge that we're keeping up with the trends of juvenile mental health, because it is a different, it's different from when I first started in law enforcement, and we're seeing that we need to handle those situations much different than we would handle somebody who wasn't suffering from mental health. And then last week, we were in the Wisconsin School Safety Conference, and we learned about a juvenile restorative justice program that we're hoping to be able to implement. I talked to Mrs. Hansen about it. Just where we know that issuing kids tickets doesn't it doesn't really do any good. Parents typically will have to pay for it. If it's a student that's really struggling and they're getting a citation for truancy, for example, it's not gonna make the truancy any better. So we're hoping to have a restorative program that, steps need to be taken, and we're hoping that, we'll, make sure that the student is understanding, the issue of truancy, or it'd be, cyberbullying can be, another thing that we can use it for, but it's a learning program for them to hopefully stop the trend. And then we're hoping to continue to utilize the school district for rescue task force training and also active threat training.
In 2023, we had a total of 549 calls here. 78 of them were juvenile problems, 29 of them were disorderly conduct, 10 suspicious, and 8 drug complaints.
You wanna do that one too?
Sure. Our achievements from last year into this year. So again, I have been here now for 2 years. So it'll be our second year of life skills as well over at Horizon. I'm actively involved in interacting with kids over at PLE and ASA. We did work with our village attorney to update our vaping and possession of drug ordinance. We're gonna continue our mentorship program, but like Officer Bunhagen said, we just gotta tweak it a little bit. We have been doing ALICE training for all staff, as well as Stop the Bleed with the Pewaukee Fire Department, Rescue Task Force with the Fire Department, and we met with our DPW and Safety Committee meeting to implement that no parking behind school.
Okay, that was it.
That was it.
Nice job.
Thank you,
That was a lot.
ladies.
Sorry, that was wordy.
Repetitive.
Any questions?
You talked about vaping and that we're seeing that on the rise. Can you talk to that a little bit more? You said that you gals talk with other SROs in other districts. What are other districts seeing when it comes to vaping? And you mentioned THC. You know, how much of that, you know, in your background and your training, do you see that leads kids to escalated drug use and they move on to harder drugs? Can you just give more information about the whole vaping scene?
Yeah, I can start and then feel free to interrupt. So vaping is something that we've seen a huge increase in. One, it's really, you're not able to detect it like you could when we were kids and you'd be smoking a cigarette in the bathroom or somebody was smoking. You could definitely smell it. Vaping is a lot more discreet. There's a different odor to it. Sometimes you can't really tell if it's a vape or it'd be body spray or something else. And then THC is something that you can sneak into a vape. I shouldn't say sneak, but you can buy them. And that is something, again, that is more discreet. It does have the odor of marijuana, so it is that still that skunky odor. But I think it's the accessibility for kids, unfortunately, and then the fact that they can bring it in here or anywhere else, or even in their homes, and hide it. So I think that's what we're seeing, and all the schools around are dealing with the same issues. Some have tried vape detectors, but there's a lot of pros and cons to those, and we're all trying to work together to figure out how we can combat this, because, and we do know that THC can be that gateway drug to other drugs. So it's something that we're struggling with. We're always open for ideas. We implemented Crime Stoppers 2 years ago, hoping that if a student sees something, that they'll say something. That's tough because we still have that stigma that if you, snitch on somebody, then you're looked at in a negative light. So we're struggling with it, I'll be honest. Wisconsin's still behind in the law, so state of Wisconsin still has the 18 age limit for tobacco, where the federal age is 21. We're still trying to catch up with that, so we can't, as a village law enforcement agency, we can't go to our local vape shops. If they sell under 18, obviously we can give them a citation, but if they sell under 21, we can't issue a ticket for 18 to 21 because our state law is still 18, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So some roadblocks, but we're hoping that we will get to the bottom of it somehow. Did that answer your question?
It did, yeah.
Okay.
And I agree. I've talked to board members from other districts, and vaping is huge. I mean, kids are buying it at the BP gas stations, and so it's just one of those things that has become so accessible to our young people. I think that's why it's starting to be so abused.
Right, right.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Could you talk a little bit about life skills? Because it's been a couple of years, we switched from DARE to life skills. Can you talk a little bit about how that's going and, you know, maybe provide a little context as to why we made the decision to switch?
Sure. So Officer Lenny has taught DARE for a very long time. And then when I came up to the school district, I think it was after COVID, where we're like, we really need to implement this program again. You know, because it gets an officer in the classroom, it builds a relationship at an elementary level, and obviously talks about a very important topic. So when I was looking at programs, unfortunately at the time, DARE it's still a very good program, but it's a 2-week training out of state, which just wasn't feasible for me to go to while I was the only SRO up here. And we found life skills, which has pretty much the same curriculum. I had Officer Lennius look at it. He's like, wow, this is like a ripoff. Maybe it is. I don't know. But it was an online training that I was able to attend and get that rolling right away at Horizon. It's going well. There are times when they will double up on classes just to fit it into their schedule, which is absolutely understandable and fine. I was hoping to have a little bit more time to get to meet the kids and individually, you know, be able to say, hey, in the hallway. It hasn't quite made it that far yet, but it's a really good program. It talks about drug and alcohol use, tobacco, and then it talks about good decisions and having that thought process to really think through before you make a decision, because you're going to have lasting consequences. It talks about respect. Again, really the same curriculum as DARE. So not just hitting on the drug and alcohol use, but the decision-making process, and some of those decisions can, you know, stay with you for a lifetime.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, ladies. We appreciate you coming in tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Have a great night.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the early college credit applications. Danielle?
Yeah, so I reviewed the early college credit, Start College Now, dual enrollment applications that we had. We had 32 applications in total. This is for the fall semester. We always, by state law, need to approve them the semester prior. This time of year is always when we see our largest amount, because dual enrollment, which is a year-long program at WCTC, all of those come in during this time as well. So this is when we see the vast majority of them come through. So nothing particularly unique of the applications this time around. I was able to review everything to ensure that we didn't have any light courses here at the high school, and if we did, that the applicant was a part of a program that was necessary to take that course at WCTC or at a area university. So everything looked really good on my end, and so I recommend approval for those applications, but happy to take any questions that you might have.
Did you see the announcement today?
I did, yeah, UW Milwaukee
Waukesha.
is closing the Waukesha campus.
But they're moving the program
To
into
CTC.
WCTC.
Yeah, to WCTC, so.
I was
yeah.
glad to hear that.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. So we still have one more school year with it, as it currently sits.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Daniel? All right, do I have a motion?
Move to approve the Start College Now applications for 13 students, early college credit applications for 4 students, and dual enrollment for 15 students in semester 1 of the 2024-2025 school year as presented.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you very much. Moving on to the Act 20 reading update.
Yeah, and Brian Siegel, our PLE principal, and Sarah Smith, one of our learning coaches, is here with us tonight as well, in case there's any questions for any of us. This is an informational item, no action necessary tonight. I sent a quite lengthy memo to you, so hopefully you had the chance to review that. You know, because there are a lot of components to Act 20 in this new literacy law that was passed this past summer, and we've had a team of staff members working through each of those components quite diligently all year. And so we're at a point where we thought it was necessary to give the board an update as far as where we're at with everything. And so you saw all of those different components in the memo, but just really at a high level. The biggest piece is that our resource, we were able to review our current resource and noted that in grades K through 2, that there was 3 queuing or MSV, which is an instructional strategy that is, after this year, no longer able to be taught. It's part of the law. That makes that instructional strategy illegal. And so we do need to look at a new resource. So we are going to be moving forward with a pilot of 2 different resources. We analyzed a number of different resources, and I have a whole little Bible here, as we call it, of all of the review that we did, in case you're curious to look at that. But we're recommending that we'll be doing a pilot of 2 different resources to really give our staff a chance to dig more deeply into them. While we looked at them quite thoroughly, you still really don't get the true essence of a resource until you teach it, and you see the pacing of it, you see how the resources work together, you see what works, what doesn't work, any adjustments you need to make. And so we'll be doing that next year. Both of those resources meet the requirements of the law, so we'll be in compliance with the law, and then as well be able to see what works best in our environment, what works best for our students and their achievement. We'll also be able to look to see other districts that have adopted a couple of different resources and what types of achievement are they seeing as well. So really taking that learning posture as we go into the next year. So about this time next year, I'll be coming forward with a recommendation then for one of those 2 resources to move forward as our permanent choice K through 2. In 3rd grade, the law does go through 3rd grade. In 3rd grade, we needed to remove just a couple of lessons that had the MSV in them. Otherwise, our resource is compliant with the law. And so, but we are going to actually be layering in some additional phonics instruction with 3rd grade. We felt like that was necessary, so we will be adding in that component again as a pilot for a resource to see how that goes, and then again coming forward with a recommendation for that next year. And then there's a variety of things around assessments. The state will be telling us what assessment we'll be needing to use. So they've said that they might be able to meet their July 1st deadline. So we're hopeful that we'll learn at some point what the assessment is that we need to give our students.
They think they will now?
They think they'll be able to meet the July 1st deadline, but there is an amendment to the law that now extends it so that we don't need to use that assessment in the first part of the school year in the fall. And stuff. So we plan to continue to use STAR as our universal screener and our progress monitoring until we hear differently from the state.
I'm sorry, so is there a potential that you would have to use STAR in the first semester and a different testing tool in the second semester?
Possible, yeah. It's also possible that what is selected might not be as robust as what we want, so we might have to use STAR in addition to what the state uses. We just simply don't know. We know that the cost of the assessment is something that the state has said will be a priority for them. So we don't know what that means exactly. So, yeah, it's kind of a wait and see. We think STAR is in the mix, but we really honestly don't know.
I was going to ask you that. STAR is on the table?
We
you think?
assume so,
Okay.
but we honestly have not heard. And, we haven't gotten really any guidance on it whatsoever. So we're just going to move forward with how we have done it and see where it lands this summer. Stuff. So there are some remediation and reading plans that need to be enacted as well that are a part of this law and stuff. So I linked that district remediation plan to the memo. That'll be posted on our website. It's really our MTSS model and handbook that you guys see annually anyways. The personal reading plans for any student falling below the 25th percentile, we are piloting those reading plans at Horizon. and a bit at PLE this semester. So we developed them and we're trying them out so we can kind of get the kinks out before we have to fully implement those. And that's going well. So we'll be in good stead there. There is professional development also required for leaders and for teachers. Different timelines on those. So we'll be moving forward with our leadership training starting this August. So I have a call tomorrow to finalize those pieces with those trainers, and then the teacher trainer will begin next school year as well. So it's got a lot of components to it and stuff, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have for me.
Can you remind me what MSV stands for?
Yeah, it's, all right, I'm
Or-
gonna
or
look
what it
to
is.
Sarah, because she can best explain this.
It's meaning, structure, and visual information. So those are the sources of information that a reader can use. The meaning, whether it be the meaning that they gather from the passage or the pictures on the page. The structure being the grammatical correctness of the word that they want to substitute for an error. And then visual, which is the actual decoding of a word.
And so you can't use that anymore?
Correct.
So what part of Act 20 wants us to focus on is the decoding first and not necessarily think what would make sense here or what would sound right, but what do the letters on the page tell you that this word is using decoding.
And now, which two companies are we going with for our pilot?
Well, technically now both of them are HMH, but Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, but Heinemann was recently bought out. So one of the products is a Heinemann product, but they were just bought by HMH, and the other one is through HMH.
And I think you said that, I know that you have a network of people in other districts. So you'll be, like, if someone else is trying a different resource, you're gonna be sharing information.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have any other questions? All right, I can't thank you all enough. I can't imagine the workload that is involved here. We appreciate your expertise, we appreciate your commitment, and we are behind you in whatever we have to do.
Truly, Sarah Smith, Carrie Rodolphe, and Robin Wilson have put in countless hours. The three of them have just spent an intense amount of time this year. It has been all-consuming for the three of them, and so really hats off to them, because without them, we would not be as far along in this nor as thoughtful in this process. So really, credit goes to them.
Thank you very much.
I just want to compliment the team as well, and one of the challenges with this is the very aggressive timeline in the law for implementation. You know, when you receive a curriculum for approval, it's a couple of years into a process, right, of evaluating what you currently have, looking at changes in things like standards, looking at multiple resources, looking at research, engaging all your teachers. So this has had to be done in a very rapid amount of time and that's why I think the pilot approach is very smart in terms of making sure that we're making a right choice and getting more information. So we, at the same time, being in compliance with the law, but really saving money in the process, quite a bit of money in the first year as well by being able to pilot, and at the same time, really thoroughly being able to vet what resource we think is going to be most impactful for our students. And the team's worked, to Danielle's point, very, very hard and put in a lot of time in this condensed time frame to get this done. So, well done.
When you pilot, do you pilot the whole grade level?
So we're gonna, half of our teachers in a grade level will pilot one of the resources, and the other half in a grade level will pilot the other resource. So we'll have teachers in each grade, K through 2, piloting each of them, but every teacher will be in a pilot.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Anything else? Well, thank you very much. Okay, moving on to policy.
In our last policy committee meeting, we reviewed 8 policies, starting with 6400-08, which was talented and gifted program, and 5200-02, which was student acceleration. And basically, the only changes there was some verbiage around the MTSS. 3200.04 was surrounding payment for goods and services, and other than just one pronoun, nothing changed there. John took a look at 3300.01 and 3300.03, dealing with accounting systems and periodic audit, and except for some minor language changes, nothing much changed there. Same goes for 3400.04, tobacco and nicotine-free environment. A few word changes were added in there. 3400.09, no changes there. So that leaves us with 5300.02, which dealt with suspensions and expulsions. There was some additional verbiage that was added via some legal advice from WASB, and that deals with the interim alternative educational setting for kids with disabilities when you're dealing with suspensions and expulsions. Otherwise, in general, we did leave the verbiage as it was. I think Mike did a really good job of also in our DA report of just talking about how after additional advice, why we didn't change procedures around giving information out prior to expulsion hearings and why we don't prolong those hearings. Mike, I don't know if you want to speak additional to that.
Yeah, some really good questions came up about the process. So what I'd put in the DA report was really what I'd spoke with Renee Aldana, our attorney, regarding those questions and recognizing the challenges in an expulsion hearing setting that there's, can be a substantial amount of information to consume for board members in that time. And the challenge being that, board members are expected to make a decision based on information that's presented in an expulsion hearing, to really come in with free of bias or prior knowledge. And so those things relate to the best practices, and that's how Renee described it. These are really best practices for those approaches, but there were some options that I think I mentioned about in deliberations following the hearing. More time to read and analyze, opportunities to keep the family and the administration around outside of deliberations in case there was additional questions. So there are some things that could be done. The other piece in the procedures, not in the policy, but in the procedures, there was quite a bit that we had added regarding conditional reinstatement and enrollment that I noted in the statute as well. That was included as an update to our procedures.
So that is first read, and as always, before it comes up for final approval, if anyone has any questions or concerns about any of the policies, please feel free to contact myself or Mike if you have any questions.
Could I just take a shortcut here and do it this way? Read the, obviously the DA stuff, but it's not in the policy that we can do what you say is okay to do, which is take the hour beforehand. The contained environment, of course, but take the hour beforehand to do the reading. And that's not put into the policy. So that would be my question as to why you're not putting that into the policy.
Yeah, I don't think it's a policy issue. It's more about a procedural issue.
Well, this has a lot of procedure in it. That's understood.
Correct.
And it's not part of the procedure that you have, that has been laid out in the procedure section. So essentially, if we don't put any verbiage in for that, we could be having the same conversation down the road
Well,
because nobody will know.
Right, so then again, the question for the board is, do you want something like that stated in the procedure? I'd have to go back and look at what exactly was written. I think the best practice that was recommended was more that there would be additional time in the deliberations following the hearing.
Yeah.
You could certainly bring in the family and the board and just sit and have time to read through those materials. You could do that. those things are a procedure that can happen at the hearing. It doesn't necessarily need to be stated in the policy. So, but again, it's your policy. So if the board wants to amend the policy and you recommend some changes, if you want it to go back to committee, you can certainly do that. It can go back to the committee for further edit. You can recommend what those edits should look like. We could run those by legal as well. So there's lots of options here with this first read if you would like to do something different as a board.
I think that that is more of a procedural thing. I mean, when we sit down at the expulsion hearing, the attorney runs through the procedures of the evening. I think that can be part of that process. I think that, I know that it's a great volume of material, but it's also, when the administrators walk us through it, they're giving us the Cliff Note version of what's there, and have always asked us if we need more time to read what's going on in the section that they're going over. So I don't think we need to change our policy. If we want to add the review time in the beginning, like you said, with the families, I think that's just a procedural thing.
And Renee did share that in some places where she's run hearings, they do that they just say, we're just gonna take some time and read this. And that's usually, my understanding was, the hearing commences, and as the evidence that you get that packet, it's presented that there's time, in some places given to just sit and read through some of that material. So again, it's your policy and procedure. If you would like to make, if you feel changes are necessary or recommended, that's up to you. If you would like to recommend something, we're happy to draft something up, and we can always run that by and get a legal opinion.
So another question. So we have, I just pushed back on that a little bit, Stacy, because we have tons and tons of procedure in our policies. I'm not a big fan of it, but it is there. So because this is a procedure, I don't think that.
Well, I'm
has
looking
any-
at the policy though, and I don't see a lot of procedure in this policy.
All of the stuff from the state is procedure, and that's all been put into the policy. You did mention that, well, and in practice, if I recall, we got a packet from one side. What is the expectations, or, we did not get two packets.
Right. So the family, the student who would be in an expulsion hearing is given notice, written notice, which includes information that they're allowed to bring and present whatever evidence that they would like. So typically you don't see, sometimes you'll have families bring some kind of material or some things to hand out. That's not real typical, but they certainly are empowered to do that. So that would be entirely up to the student and the family to, if they had materials that they would like to present.
And I think, Mike, when we're talking about extra time to read, we're not talking an hour, right? I mean, is when you.
I wouldn't, I'm not suggesting a time limit on it. Again, it's what you as a board feel you need to make a decision. I think that was Mary, his concern is that having, this is an important decision. Do we have ample time to digest this information? Which I think is, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, Mary, but I think that was one of the main thrusts of what you were talking about. So, again, it's what do you feel you need as a board to make sure you're fully understanding and digesting the information. So, for example, during a hearing, if there's a portion, say their administration presents a portion of that packet and you just need more time to sit and read it, you can just ask, I want some time just to sit and read this. And they can pause at any time and provide that. So there's a variety of opportunities to take that time. The practices about, I think bigger concerns would be things like adjourning, recessing, for the reasons that were shared with you, the practical and perceptual issues that I think I wrote about in the notes for you. But if you need more time to read those things, or you need things explained further, that's the purpose of the hearing, is to help make sure that that understanding is there. So the time is relevant to how much time you need.
Except for you saying it now, there's no indication in the materials that we had prior to that stopping the presentation and saying, hold it, we're going to like to sit here and read this for a bit, is an option. So it's a very choreographed, maybe not the best word, but it's well organized as a procedure. And if it's not in there in the policy, when a board member is gathering what he needs to gather to go into such a meeting, they're not going to know that you can do that, because the attorney is extremely efficient in moving the thing right along. And there's no sense that you can be stopping it to read. So, thanks.
Right, if there's something, again, that's helpful, whether it be in the procedures or the policy that you would like to see, we can look at adding those things. Part of it, I'll be honest, Mary, that I've been around expulsions for a long time, and this is the first time I've had that question. So the practices are just what the practices have been, I think. So and I think this is maybe one of your points here, right? That it's not written down that there's this opportunity to do this. So that being, I believe, your first experience with that, you didn't know, right? That this would be an option to do it until we've had this conversation. So again, if there's something that would be helpful.
Right, and we're not having this conversation unless I brought it up.
Correct. Yeah.
So I mean, no other board member it would never come up, is what I'm
All right,
suggesting.
I
It was just-
cannot say with precision that the administrators offered at that expulsion meeting extra time to read, but I know for a fact they have in the
Yes.
past.
We've asked for it, and we've gotten it.
They
I mean,
stop and they say, do you need more time to make it through this section? I don't know that they did it at that time. I would think they would have, because it's their practice. But I've never felt rushed.
No.
I've never felt like I didn't have enough time to understand what was in the packet. If you're saying that was a problem for you, then we will address that going forward. If you're saying you need it written into a procedure, we can address that. I do not think it's a policy item.
Correct, and we did bring the policy forward, but at the last committee meeting, which Mary attended, we did say that we would just put a hold on the procedures and see if there was further discussion on it before we change any procedures at all. But, this goes back to, I've been in several of these now. I've never felt rushed. I've never felt like any question I had was not answered. And it's also part of the fact that I trust our administration. I know that our administration, when they bring an expulsion to us, they didn't take it lightly. They did everything they could to work with that student to prevent bringing it to that. So I always feel that when administration brings an expulsion to us, it's because they've exhausted all other options. And so I ask my questions, and then based on the information, I make my decision. And I've never felt like I was ever cheated on the ability to know information for each one.
Would it be helpful, well, two things, and to ask how to get some direction. Would it be helpful for me to draft something into the procedures, which I could bring to the next committee? Or do you want this policy to come back to committee? Because that's an option that you have here as because we've talked about that's the purpose of first read, right? Is to have exactly this kind of good discussion that you're having about a policy right now. So those are a couple of options. There's no huge rush on moving this forward. If you would like it to come back to committee with some language considerations. If you want this to move forward to the consent agenda, it can, with procedures coming to the policy committee for review with some phrasing that maybe addresses the concerns that Mary has raised. So there's a couple of options here. And if there's something that we can do to help make sure that this policy and our procedures fit what this board is comfortable with, then we're happy to continue to work on it.
What is the typical, maybe this is not a typical thing, the amount of information that normally accompanies an admin expulsion would be running is any sense of that?
Yeah, I would say what was presented to you, sometime in that case, there was a couple of different kinds of evidence, including video. Sometimes that exists, sometimes it doesn't. It does depend to some degree on what happened. I would say that was pretty typical, in terms of the amount of content that you'll see. Maybe slightly longer with the video piece, but pretty typical.
Jane, Jeannie, I'd love to hear what you guys think.
I think that, I think it's usually helpful if you're gonna bring procedures forward. I think in this case, it might be helpful to have the policy and procedures come at the same time. I think I think it makes sense, especially since, there's just minor changes here. So there's nothing that's gonna change anything in the near future. So I guess my thought would be that they come together, that it go back to policy, and then and policy committee can decide whether procedures are necessary or not, and then come forward with their recommendation as to whether procedures were necessary and bring the policy forward. That would be my
Makes sense to
thought.
me, Jane.
And actually, in the past, procedure usually does come with a policy.
Typically, yes, right.
Jeannie, what are your thoughts on the time being part of policy or part of procedure?
I would prefer it as procedure. I don't want to set a time, and I certainly wouldn't want a specific time because you don't know what you're going to need depending upon the particular case. So I would like that in procedure, I think.
Okay. All right, so we're going to put that one back to committee with procedures.
So the policy and the procedures will come back. I'll draft something reflecting this, and then you guys can have a discussion there if that reflects what you're looking for.
So just a question on what you put forward. All of those that have procedures came to the board with the procedures. So I was under the impression that what Jeannie was saying it was always the case. So when you started talking about they're separate, how would we ever know that?
We held off, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but I think we held off on bringing the procedure with it because you were seeking additional advice from the attorney on procedures before we brought that forward.
Yeah, typically what comes to the board is the policy, not the procedures that are designed, and the procedures can be modified administratively. The procedures are developed, the board's always informed of procedures, but the procedures are really developed administratively to implement the board's policy. That's the
They're
purpose of the
operational.
procedure. So.
But
the board
they're noted
approves
at the
the second-
bottom as if we're reviewing them.
I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Mary.
I'm sorry to cut in, Mike. They're noted at the bottom, so you get your policy, and then you get that long list of dates where it's been reviewed. Then you get the procedures in this case, and at the bottom, more often than not, I don't know if it's entirely 100%, this is the same thing. The review, the date, and all that kind of thing, as if they are a single entity.
Yeah, the procedures can be modified administratively at any time. The procedures don't require board action, don't involve board action, the policy does. So if there's dates on there, that would be dates that reflect when procedures were updated. But the way that our practice has been, if we do anything to modify procedures, it's shared with the board so you can see if any procedures have been modified. And then this kind of discussion can happen. So that's been the practice.
Okay,
So those are going back. We'll write some, okay.
that one, yeah. All right, moving on to personnel. We have some, excuse me, we have some resignations.
Yes. Just get my document open here. We have 3 resignations. So I would seek your approval of the resignation of Megan McFadden, school counselor at Horizon, Madeline O'Dwyer, speech pathologist at Horizon, and Allie Smelser, business education teacher at PHS. I'd be happy to take any questions you have, otherwise I'd seek your approval.
I have the same question I had last time, Mike. So you have the DA report, and it's got a lot of stuff in there that's just for us, not just for us, but it's just information.
Right.
Why are we approving resignations? Why isn't it in your DA report?
Yeah, resignations are approved because it's a certified position. The board takes action on resignations and hires for certified positions. If it was non-certified positions such as a paraprofessional, a custodian, those kinds of things, that we just kind of inform. But the board takes action for all certified positions.
Why? On the resignation?
Yeah, because statutorily you approve contracts for certified positions. So the resignation is an aspect of that.
What does it mean to not approve a resignation?
Well, then we'd have to go back to the contract and deal with that employee. I believe they would have an out. There's things like liquidated damages that, because that's built into a contract, is a way for the employee to end the contract through liquidated damages. I'd have to go and get a legal ruling. I've never had that question either, so I can get I can go get a legal response to why the board needs to approve resignations.
Yeah, and there's one on resignations and retirements, I think we also approve. And would that not be correct?
Correct, that's
Okay.
coming up, that's next.
And or just send me to the correct, so I can get a sense of what that is. There are many things that are in your DA report that are monetary and all that good stuff that we do not approve.
Correct.
So I'm not seeing the distinction, and I don't know what it means to do it at all. So
Yeah, so
just give me, I mean, I don't mean to make you do more work. You can send me to do the
No,
work.
that's
I'll be
fine.
happy to do the work.
That's what
Thank
I'm
you.
here for, Mary. Happy to do it. We'll get you that information.
All right, are there any questions? Oh, sorry.
No, I was just gonna make a motion, does anyone? All right, move to approve the resignation of Megan McFadden, Madeline O'Dwyer, and Allie Smeltzer.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion and second to approve the resignations. Is there any questions or discussion? All right, all in favor of the resignation, accepting the resignations of Megan McFadden, Madeline O'Dwyer, and Allie Smelser, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
All right, moving on to the retirements.
We have two retirements, Vicki Linsmeyer, teacher at Horizon Elementary, and Christine Kielfaus, Spanish teacher at Horizon and Asa Clark Middle School. So with thanks for their years of service, I would seek your approval in accepting their retirements.
Motion to accept the retirements of Vicki Linsmeyer and Christine Kilthau.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments? All right, all in favor of approving the retirements of Christine Kilthau and Vicki Linsmeyer, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
All right. There are no employments,
There are no leaves
leaves.
at this time.
All right. Moving on to board goals and operations. We have tomorrow the reality store. Bren, Jeannie, and myself will be performing interviews for the students, the seniors. Dylan, pick your favorite.
All right, I'll do my best. Whoever I don't pick, don't take it personally.
I did talk to our SROs to make sure some of those tickets they're issuing go to Detroit Lion fans. So.
Oh, that would be foul play.
All right.
Dylan, remember, I was on the interview committee when we put you on this.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
I know where I'm going.
All right, a week from tonight, we have our second facility referendum tour. Jeannie, you and I will be representing that evening. Tuesday, we have, Tuesday, April 2nd is our election and a referendum vote. Please get all your friends, family, and neighbors to vote. Dylan, are you 18?
I will be on Thursday.
Nice.
Oh, happy birthday.
Make sure you vote.
Thank you.
Make sure you vote. All right, and then 2 days later, we'll have Larry and Bren will be doing the canvassers, and that job got a little bit more complicated, I see. But that's all good. Okay, then Monday, April 15th will be our farewell meeting for Jeannie and Jane. We have business affairs at 6, board meeting at 7, and we'll be giving the new board members their oath of office. Wednesday, April 24th, I hope you've marked your calendar. We have the scholarship award night at the Silver Spring Country Club. So far we have Larry, Bren, and myself going. All right. Monday, we're going backwards. Oh, Monday, April 8th is the new student board representative interviews. Ashley, Larry, Bren, and myself will be attending those, and Natalie, I think you're going to be there, right? Nice, thank you. April 29th will be our policy committee meeting and our board meeting with our first meeting of our new board members attending. And then we move into strategic planning sessions on Monday, May 6th and Monday, May 13th. We have our retreat on Saturday, June 1st, here in the Learning Commons. And then finally, the next 2 dates of importance are Friday, June 7th is graduation in the gym, and
That can't be right. I mean, it says Asa Clark promotion under there, but
yeah, I know.
that's gotta be, that should be.
Is
under-
it flipped?
It should be under Tuesday, June 11th.
Tuesday, June 11th is Asa Clark promotion,
Correct.
Yeah.
and Friday, June 7th is
This is the
graduation.
first year where we're graduating this. We moved to
Graduation
the
before.
last Friday
Yeah,
of the year for seniors, so they are actually, this is the first time seniors are graduating a few days early.
okay,
We did that just for Dylan.
just for Dylan.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
All right.
Point of order or information here?
Yep.
And the personnel issues, Mike, you didn't, or if I missed it, the hiring of the principal?
That is in process. We're doing interviews on, Tuesday the 19th is our first round of interviews. We've screened applications and have invited the first.
So the board is not part of that? No member of the board is part of that?
I did talk to Stacy, and Jeannie and Larry are representing the board for interviewing, for first round interviews.
All right, well, if it's an opportunity exists, I would like to be part of that. The second thing is the human growth and development. Was that not on the agenda?
That's not on the agenda tonight.
Well, it's
It
coming
is.
up.
We
It's
haven't
coming
gotten-
up.
we haven't gotten there
I'm
yet.
sorry, that's later.
Far ahead. I thought you were on the last page already. Sorry, that's it, thank you.
All right. Legislative advocacy? Any news?
I don't have anything new there.
All right. Now, human growth and development update.
Yeah, so just an update, we had a meeting on March 1st with the committee, and then Ashley and I met last week. We continue to update the teaching practices, so we're getting really close to that. A draft is out to the committee right now for their feedback, so we should be getting that hopefully wrapped up here in the next couple of weeks. The committee also reviewed some resources and did put forward a recommendation that to us that then I will bring to you when the full PE and health curriculum comes forward and we do this whole thing May, I think it's May 20th, the last meeting in May and stuff. So we do have a textbook selected that's moving forward for recommendation, so.
All right. Well, thank you for your work on that. Does anybody have any questions for Danielle?
Can you state the name of the textbook?
It's called Glencoe Health.
That's it? For the entire title?
Yep.
Glencoe's kind of a big company.
It
Okay,
it is, yep, it's just called Health.
all right.
Uh-huh. So if anybody does want to take a look at it, I'll have it available once I present the curriculum. Then there's always that 2-week period before you guys take action on it. I would have it available for anybody to review if they are interested. There's a middle school version and a high school version, both titled Health, and an ever creative name.
All right. All right. Do we have any comments from citizens? Fellas, got anything? All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second?
All in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?